Hi, ladies. Hi, Yasmina or Yamina. Welcome in. Greetings. Long time no see. If you are able to hear me, please put a one in the chat so I know that the audio is good. Perfect. Rose, welcome. Faith, welcome. Hi, Autumn. Welcome. See, Autumn, this is divine timing. I'm so glad that you were able to catch me at this time. Honestly, I was not even planning to go live today, but I figured since I have some time, I would just pop in and say hello. And I'm so glad that you were able to catch me. How is everyone doing? I know it's been a while since we've chatted. What is going on? How is your summer? What are your plans for the upcoming fall season? I know that Halloween is around the corner. I'm super excited for that. What else you got going on? I am currently in the process of redoing my room, renovating it. So I did a complete restructuring or remodeling, if you will, of a dresser that I had. It's like a vintage wood dresser that has been in my family, honestly, for generations. So I got it redone, I got it stripped down and then restained to this like beautiful chocolate brown. And I'm so happy with how it turned out. I also got a new headboard for my bed, as well as two matching side tables to match. So I'm really happy with how everything is coming around. Like they're black, so there's like accent pieces of black here and there. I found these random lamps just by chance. Where did I find it at? Maybe it was TJ Maxx or Marshalls, but just happenstance to find them. And then I found almost like a replica light fixture that matches it perfectly. So it's like a linen, so they have like a black base, the two lamps, and then the shade is like this linen, this large like linen shade. And then I found like something to match it on Amazon with like a double layer linen shade as well. And I was so happy. I'm like, yes, it wasn't even the same brand and it all came together. So I love when you plan a project or something like that and it all comes together without you expecting it to come together. So that's honestly what I've been spending my free time doing. I also got this massive standalone mirror. I'm trying to limit the amount of things that I pin to the wall just because I don't like, I know that you can fill them, but I don't like seeing the holes in the wall after you take things down and you want to switch things up. So this full length mirror, the fact that it's able to stand alone on its own, I was so happy about that, and it matches my entire decor. So yeah, I'm gonna get started with the topic. Not planning to stay on here too long, but I just wanted to come in and check in with you all, make sure that you're doing good and staying safe. Hi, Dorothy, welcome in. And I just wanted to offer some words of encouragement and advice because things are kind of hot right now. As you can see, the topic of this live is we're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk and Irina Zarutska. Rest in peace to both of those individuals. I think it's important to address some things. And as you know, this channel does not shy away from the hard topics. It doesn't shy away from ruffling some feathers, if you will. And I do that not to be a shit disturber, but to encourage and instruct women who look like me so that you can have the best possible outcome in life. Um, and so before I get into that, I just wanted to mention some things. First and foremost, apologies for the long hiatus. I was away for a couple of weeks. That's the longest that I've been away since this channel started a year ago. Just been extremely busy, had a couple life changes, recently got promoted. And so my team has been busy. First of all, just getting acquainted with the team, the systems. I work in IT, so that's a very demanding industry in and of itself. And then also trying to meet the demand of what my team needs to deliver for our business partners. So honestly, when I get home, I literally just eat, shower, and go to sleep. So that's why I've been away. But moving forward, I will be getting back into scheduling more or uploading more consistently. I can't commit to posting more than one video a week, but I will be consistent in at least giving you that weekly video now that things have settled down. So whatever topics you would like me to discuss, please drop it in the chat of this live or any of the videos that you watch, and I will be able to see your recommendations and be able to plan content accordingly. For my level 2 members, if you have not booked your girl chat yet, please send me an email and I will get that set up. That is one of the perks of the level 2 membership. You are allotted one free girl chat with me. It's just a 30-minute casual conversation. We can talk about literally anything. And obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm just a regular human being who gives advice, anecdotal advice, if you will, based on my lived experiences. But I'm always happy to lend a listening ear and, help out from my opinion and my perspective if I'm able to. So yeah, if you have not booked your girl chat yet, level 2 members, then please send me an email and we can get that set up. Thank you, Dorothy, for the congrats. And yes, I have quite a bit of content on the channel. So yeah, definitely more than enough for you all to be able to digest that information. One second. Okay, and for those who are not already members, memberships are live. So if you click the link in the description of any of my videos, you can join to gain access to exclusive content. A lot of times I post follow-up talks, just raw, unedited, unscripted conversations for my members only, especially as it pertains to advice. So anything specific, like how to level up in your career, how to make money during a recession, things like that, or any specific content related to leveling up your looks. All of those type of videos are available in the membership, and there are more to come. So if you are interested in that type of content, you can go ahead and join the membership and you will see all of that there. Hey, Darren, no, you're not late. We are just getting started. I'm just saying some announcements and then I'm about to actually start and get into the topic. So first, I wanted to address the situation with Irina Zarutska. Rest in peace to her again. I'm not going to go into details as to what happened. I think at this point we all know what happened. If you don't know what happened, you can do a quick Google search to get caught up. It is very sad and unfortunate what happened, and I'm quite disappointed in how things happened. Because I noticed that no one stepped in. First of all, that situation should have never happened. Um, and it's quite alarming to me that people like that offender are able to have a long rap sheet of committing crimes and violent crimes at that. And then they are given the opportunity to go back out into the public after they've demonstrated that they are a threat and a danger, just to turn around and go ahead and do that again to somebody else. What happened to Irina could have been avoided, in my opinion, but when laws are too lax, in my opinion, this is the outcome. And we've seen many other similar situations, maybe not as grotesque, but a lot of similar situations where I guess lawmakers are trying to show that they're not trying to be offensive, or they're not trying to step on people's toes, if you will. And so they do that in exchange of the public safety. And I think it's important to call this out because, number one, and it's not only Black people or Black women who have been advocating for more lenient sentences and things like that, but let's face it, a good chunk of Black folks, and specifically Black women, have been advocating for more lenient sentences for Black men, let's face it, in the name of, Black men are targeted disproportionately, and these sentences are too harsh and they're stricter compared to their white male counterparts and other races. And so to prove that you're not racist, be more lenient with your laws. And in an effort to demonstrate and to prove that they are in fact not racist and they're not, the objective is not to target people based on their skin, but to crack down on crime and make the streets safer, judges and lawmakers complied. And now we are seeing people just running rampant and acting a fool. And Black women, this impacts you as well. Okay, regardless of your admixture or lack thereof, or the shade of your skin, if you, God forbid, are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you happen to be in proximity of people who have a long rap sheet of being offenders, and even maybe people who do not have a long rap sheet yet, but they are on their way to doing that, you run the risk of also being at risk. And I'm seeing a lot of Black women in the news. It's not as reported because, honest to God, there are so many things going on. But on a micro level, if you have your ear to the ground with regards to crime stats in your local neighborhood, a lot of Black women are being targeted as well. Not to mention the rampant gender-based violence that exists within the Black community. So these loose laws, honestly, is not benefiting anyone, especially you Black women. And if a white woman is able to be targeted and go through what this poor young lady went through, then, with a higher rate of violence and random crimes towards Black women, you are also at risk, and probably more so than the average woman. And this is not to say, Black women, what happened to this young lady is less important than Black women, but let's face it, Black women are more likely to face and experience violent crimes because there are higher rates of crime within the Black community, especially at the hands of Black men. So these laws really, regardless of your political leaning, someone asked me if I am conservative or moderate. I am more so in the middle. I tend to lean right as it pertains to some topics, but I'm more so in the middle. Now more than ever, I don't see where the past administration worked to benefit Black women. And I think that we're seeing the after effects of that now, because everything things don't just hit the fan as it happens. It's often a trickle effect that happens afterwards. And we're starting to see that play out now. Um, and so as a result, and it's evident of that in Donald Trump and his administration being elected, because people have had enough. Not just with crime and violence and everything that's happening in the community. Auto thefts are at an all-time high, but the economy is shot. People are struggling. Unemployment rate is up. People are having a hard time finding jobs. The last administration was not able to deliver, and so Donald Trump was elected. And so I'm saying all this to say, Black women, while it is not your job to save anyone, and you definitely should not put yourself in harm's way, especially if the offender is still there. I'm honestly disappointed to see how desensitized people have become to the suffering of others, because it's so rampant. It is happening so much that it's almost like just another day, just another violent crime. Like, we see this so much now that people are not bothered by that. And so when people are not bothered by crime, you see what happened with this young lady, where people are less inclined to even step in and help. No one called for help for this young lady. No one tried to help her. And Black women, unfortunately, were among that group and are now being called out for it. People are taking note, and they're using that to justify Black fatigue. I've spoken about Black fatigue on this channel in a couple videos. You can go back and look at those. And I think that it is warranted. You know that I don't spare any expense when it comes to critiquing and holding the Black community accountable. But people are using this to say, you see, like, we are fatigued because these people lack empathy. And it really does look like people nobody even looked shocked to say, oh, shoot, like, look what happened. Even if you don't know what happened at first, you're just most people, when they're on public transit, they're just minding their own business, listening to music, whatever. But the moment that you see like a pool of blood beside someone, or someone slumped over, you would think, okay, at the very least, let me call for help. Because when it comes to emergencies like that, every minute counts. And so when people become fatigued, God forbid if a Black woman were to go through something similar to what this young lady went through, people of the majority, people who are able to help you, are going to be less inclined to help you. Which is why I tell Black women to move out of highly densely populated cities. So like New York City, LA, Detroit, Chicago. Stay out of those major cities. I know that a lot of the job opportunities are there. If you need to commute into those cities to work, get your money, whatever, and then move to the outskirts, the suburbs, do that. Do whatever it takes to be safe. But this situation points to what I've been preaching this whole time, which is the importance of cleaning up your image. And cleaning up your image does not only involve how you look, presenting yourself well, but it also involves cleaning up how you act and your behavior, because people are taking note and, number one, are becoming fed up with the lack of morality. But the lack of morality, number two, also signals to the greater society that you are not an ally, you are not one of them, quote unquote. And so they are less likely to stand up for you and to have your back when you need help. And the last thing I want to see is a Black woman in trouble and people are not willing to help you because they are pissed off by the actions of other individuals who look like you. Let me just pause and read some of these comments. I'm a moderate to left-leaning on some topics. And you know what, Blaine, that is 100% you're right. We may not agree on a lot of topics politically, but the beauty of living in a democracy is that you are allowed to believe whatever you want. And I will not berate you or demonize you for your beliefs. All these videos of Black women celebrating these passings is putting a target on all of our backs. Exactly. You get it. People are watching and taking note, not just with this situation, because if it was just with this situation, yes, it's insensitive and people would be upset, but people would not be as upset as they are now, because there wouldn't have been a track record in the past for people to look at and be like, oh, you see, it turns out that we were judging these people based on their character and not the color of their skin. And their character shows that they are morally bankrupt and not good people to be around. And the videos of Black women twerking in Lululemon, causing public ruckuses and fights and acting complete fools is fueling that narrative of Black women that needs to be cleaned up and detached from. And Black women, it is not your job to clean up the entire Black collective's image. You need to focus on yourself. Focus on cleaning up your image, present yourself well physically. Basic things like having manners, having empathy when people need to have empathy, being a good neighbor, if you will, is what will set you apart from the Black collective. And these are just basic things. It does not cost you anything to behave yourself, to have manners, to have respect. It costs you absolutely nothing. And if you had the misfortune of being raised in a family, a community where people were a bit crass and rude and you really don't know how to act, there are plenty of videos on my channel and content on social media where you can learn basic etiquette. You don't need to kiss people's behind to demonstrate that you're a good human being, but at the very least, behaving yourself in a way where you are not a public nuisance will set you up good just in general, but will set you apart from the average Black woman, which the average Black woman is not doing good, whether it's socially and whether it's in the workforce. And, you know, Black women are paying the price. And I don't want any of you all to be a part of that. Yeah, Autumn. Yes, exactly. People were recording the incident instead of calling for help, which goes to show me like people did not, a lot of times bystanders do not help because they're afraid like, oh, maybe I'll be blamed, maybe the offender will come back and harm me. But you standing there and recording shows that you were not afraid of any of that. It just shows that you are morally bankrupt. And there were a couple of non-Black people doing that as well, participating. I want to make that clear. There were some comments that I read where there were white people saying like, oh, you know, if this was a group of white men, this would have never happened, which honestly, well, on the grand scheme of things, probably not. But we also know that a lot of white men are the perpetrators of public pew-pewings. And I'm sorry for using like ridiculous language like this, but YouTube really likes to flag channels that mention certain trigger words. So I have to use kitty language so as not to piss off YouTube. But there were non-Black people also standing there and recording, but a good chunk of people in that group and that audience were Black folks, unfortunately. And so whether you intend to or not, there are people who are watching and looking at Black people's behavior and are using that to justify Black fatigue. And again, Black fatigue is warranted. There are many Black people who are sick and tired of the way that the Black collective is holding back the Black collective. And so, yeah, there are Black people and non-Black people alike who are tired of the way that Black people are denigrating their image. And they don't want to suffer, and rightfully so. So there's that. What about rebuilding the hood? Melody, it is not your job to rebuild anything, okay? If you look at other races of people, And I know that Black people don't like to be compared to other groups of people, but so what? We are human beings just like them, so why not? Other groups of people, their men build their community. The women do not build, the women go in and cultivate and support the foundation that the men built. And Black men have not built anything for Black women. And so a lot of times I notice that because Black women want to have a better quality of life for themselves and their community, it is a natural desire for the woman to be nurturing and want to make sure that you have a safe home, community, whatever to live in. Um, but because that foundation has not been laid by Black men, sometimes you find Black women playing that role of trying to build and then trying to cultivate and everything on top of that. And that leads to burnout, that leads to physical illnesses, a lot of stress, depression, other mental health issues. Black women have one of the highest rates of things like dementia, stroke, heart disease, all these things because they are stressed from having to carry the Black community. It is not your job to build the hood. If you want to make things better for the collective or yourself, first of all, focus on yourself. Build yourself, get access to the best possible quality of life that you can for yourself so that you can set a good example for those who are behind you. But even then, as one individual and as more and more individuals choose a more positive life and path, then over time, natural selection, if you will, I know people don't like to talk about that, but natural selection will take its course. And those who choose to abide by healthy life practices will survive. And those who choose to be degenerates will just fall by the wayside. And then there will no longer be a hood. But that's an aspirational, long-term objective, if you will. And so that's why I just tell Black women to focus on yourselves and align with those who mean you well, regardless of race. And yes, there are other Black people who you can align with and connect with, but not at the quantity that you could then justify and say like, oh yes, this is a wholesome, healthy community and collective. Let's build together the way that other races do, the way that Jews do, Asians do, South Asians. Those people know how to mobilize and come together as a community and build community and generational wealth. And that's just something that Black people have not mastered. Because Black people, by and large, still suffer from that crabs in a bucket mentality. So focus on yourself. If you can connect with maybe one or two like-minded individuals who share a race with you, sure. But if you live in a country like the United States, Canada, the UK, do not limit yourself to just the Black community. Assimilate and get to know people of different cultures and languages, and you will find that it will benefit you a great deal than worrying about rebuilding the hood. Yeah, good idea, Autumn. And it's unfortunate because New York City is like such a cultural and financial hub that, I mean, they say that if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And like, that's for obvious reasons. But unfortunately, like there is so much social decay that it's just not safe to stay in New York City unless you live in like the wealthiest parts of Manhattan, which is just unfortunately unattainable for many people. So go wherever else you can prosper and make money and be safe and have a relatively comfortable life. One thing that I took away honestly from this pandemic is that life is short and that none of us know when we're going to go. And so you honestly should not waste it on trying to save other people, especially people who are hard-headed and they themselves do not want to be saved. And you certainly, especially if you live in a first world country where you have access to the top 1% of life, if you live in a first world country, you are on a global scale considered to be a part of the 1%, because the rest of the world, a good chunk of the world, does not have access to what you have access to. Even if you are unemployed, you stand a greater chance of getting access to welfare and not being homeless compared to someone who lives in a third world country and they just rely on fate. They were not born into wealth, and so it is much harder for them to get ahead in life. So if you are a part of this privileged 1% in the world, do not waste it trying to save people who do not want to be saved, because it's not your responsibility and it is a wasted effort. Okay, if you have access to, even if again you're making minimum wage, whatever, you're middle class, lower middle class, you stand a good opportunity of increasing and improving your living situation and your social status, if you will. Rather than wasting it on people who don't want to be helped, you should be putting that effort into yourself so that you can have a better quality of life. And if you have children and you decide to have children, you can pass on that generational wealth without them having to start from scratch and get things out of the mud the way that the average Black individual has to. Yeah, exactly. Rebuilding the hood is challenging because Black people do fight against each other. Um, I don't know what it is. I think that Black people like to struggle. I think it's a mentality that has been passed down for maybe even centuries where Black people like to hold on to this woe is me, I'm so oppressed mentality that even as a Black individual, you come in and say, oh, there's a better way. There's an easier way to live your life without it being a struggle. You're met with the, oh, you're being anti-Black. Oh, you're promoting white supremacy. And so it's just futile, wasted effort. You end up being trained and it's just not worth it. Like, you are not placed on this earth to struggle and suffer. While other people are prospering and doing well in life, like, why should you be left in the trenches just because you have a bleeding heart and you're trying to help people who don't want to be helped? Live your life for yourself, honestly, and just align with like-minded individuals. Yeah, exactly. You get called an Uncle Tom whenever you try to show Black people the other way. So now I just don't even fight with Black people. I just align with people who are like-minded. And for my listeners, I just speak to y'all and create content for those who this message resonates with, and those who don't will continue to leave nasty comments under my videos, and I'll just continue to block them. What is your style of standing up for yourself without being crass? You need to be firm and assertive without thinking that without being afraid of ruffling feathers. And you don't have to be like rude and like domineering towards people. And sometimes, like, if someone does something to you or says something to you that's inappropriate, it doesn't take like the wrath of God for you to correct that person. You can just very gently but also astutely and firmly like have boundaries, and for the most part people will get it. But sometimes you do need to be a bit abrupt for people to get the message, because they will try to push your boundaries, and that's totally fine. Like, don't even be afraid at this point of being labeled the angry Black woman, because people are going to think whatever they want to think about you regardless of what you do. You could be Mother Teresa herself and people will find a way to find fault in what you do. So and it also is a good tactic when you have boundaries, to weed out people who have good intentions and those who don't. Those who have good intentions, if they cross your boundaries and you correct it, they'll stop and apologize and see their fault. But those who do not have good intentions will either try to cross your boundaries or will get upset that you have boundaries in the first place and think that it's their right to have full, unadulterated access to you. And those are the people that you need to stay away from. And when you extend your boundaries by staying away from people who do not respect them in the first place, you avoid having to stand up for yourself in a lot of situations. But when people see that you have boundaries, that you kind of have this air of confidence, they know that they cannot mess with you, and they're less likely to to cross you. Back when I did not have boundaries, I was more, I had to deal with more confrontation because people felt like, oh, she's an easy target. I can cross her. And now that I walk with confidence, and that's something that I had to develop honestly over the past couple of years or so, people just don't try me anymore because they see, like, okay, she carries herself well, she dresses well, she has boundaries. Let me go play with somebody else. But yeah, usually whenever I am firm but polite in my approach, people know, like, okay, I didn't know before, but now I know not to mess with you, type of thing. Um, Before I continue with the comments, I just wanted to address Charlie real quick. Charlie Kirk was a very controversial figure, as you know, and I agreed with some of what he said, especially regarding social issues in the Black community. I think that a lot of people had issues with what he said about the Black community because, first of all, even as a Black individual, when you address Black issues, it is met with a lot of backlash. And so if you are a heterosexual white male coming in and saying the same thing that what I would say, it is much more controversial because then it's like, oh, you're being anti-Black. But when you step out of your feelings when it comes to those social issues, a lot of what he said was true about Black people, especially as it pertains to single parenthood and how that impacts Black youth growing up, and crime and just things like that. So I agree with a lot of what he said with that, but I also disagreed with a lot of what he said, specifically concerning abortion. He has made comments saying that, fetuses are a life, and I do agree with that to some extent, but God forbid if a woman is R-worded, I do not think that she should have to bear the burden of someone else's transgression towards her by having to carry that child. Like, I think that's just completely ludicrous and insane. And it's more so when you force a woman to keep that pregnancy, especially because, like, if she was violated and she had to go through something against her will, it's like you're punishing her instead of dealing with the individual who committed the crime in the first place. And I feel like people who have this stance of like, oh, it's still a life, you should still keep the child, give the child up for adoption. Okay, fine. Yes, you can give the child up for adoption. That is an option. But people who have that mentality tend to be more silent when it comes to the offenders. And I feel as if we need to be, if you're going to be so strong about the sanctity of life and preserving life, you also need to be equally as strong, or if not more, in respecting the life of that woman. And I feel like that is lacking by and large with regards to that, but also we're seeing that in an increase in violence against women, gender-based violence, not just intimate partner violence, but just in general, women being attacked, because there is not enough fear placed in men and not enough consequences to deter men from attacking women. And so it's like, okay, yeah, this unborn child is a life, and I agree with that, but so is the mother. And what she went through was harrowing and horrible and should have never been done. What are we doing to address these men that think it's their right to harm women? A lot of times it's like, yeah, well, let the justice system prevail. And it's like, but many of you also agree that the justice system is failing people because, again, back to Irina is a prime example of this. People who commit these heinous crimes and these offenders, many of them are getting out on bail, spending not even their entire sentence. It's a joke. It's literally catch and release, and then they're free to roam the streets and commit the crime that they did before that landed them in trouble in the first place. And women are left to pick up the pieces. So that's something that I need more and more people to if you're gonna be touting, and abortion is just one example of one of the things that I don't agree with, but it's just top of mind. If you're gonna be saying that, an unborn child is a life and we should respect life, then we also should respect the life of the woman who was harmed. And we need to set up society in a way where men are afraid to harm women. And that is largely lacking around the world, but especially in the West, where we claim to be progressive, free world where you can come and live without fear. Many women are living in fear, and that needs to change. But outside of that, you can think whatever you want about Charlie and feel however you want about his passing. But honestly, Black women, for the love of God, keep your opinions to yourself, or at the very least, if you must talk about it, keep your opinions about Charlie private. Because I'm seeing a large number of Black women publicly celebrating his passing, saying that he deserved it, calling for what happened to him to happen to his wife, saying that his children should be raised in foster care. Again, you are allowed to think whatever you want to think. I will not police that. But when you publicly, with your entire face and name, government name out for people to see, when you make these comments and these statements, you are fanning the flames of Black fatigue. And many white supremacists and adjacents are using this to justify violence against Black people. And I do not want to see Black women specifically, regardless of your shade or your admixture, whatever, caught up because you did not know how to be strategic and move in silence. And too many of you still, despite you saying at the last election, oh, we're just going to sit this one out and we're going to watch the world burn, but like you're just yapping away and just saying anything that comes to your mind, not realizing the repercussions. And then when the iron fist comes down, so to speak, or you're met with hostility from people, white people in public, and you're saying, oh, you see, it's because they're racist, you're forgetting that sometimes even if you are not the one who have been making these crass comments online, because you share a phenotype with people who are doing it, you are more at risk, which is another reason, again, why I say that you need to distinguish yourself from the collective so that as time goes on, people are able to make a clear distinction between you and them. And right now, that line between Black women who work hard, who are honest, responsible, good people, that line is still too thin between y'all, us, and degenerates. Because well-to-do Black women still like to align their image, or at the very least defend degeneracy, just because it's another Black person. When you see a Black person acting the fool and being corrected, for example, criminals, sorry y'all, when you see criminals acting the fool and they're being corrected, keep your mouth shut and don't say anything. Because when you speak up and say, oh, it's a Black person and racism and harsher sentences, you are signaling to people that you align with that messaging, and you will continue to be lumped with that. Let those people face the consequences. Not only will the streets be safer for you and your loved ones, but that gap between law-abiding citizens, Black women who work hard and deserve the very best in life, and people who just want to ride the coattails and act anyhow, that gap will continue to widen. Okay, so with regards to any political topic, really, you should not be talking about it in public. Don't talk about it at work. Don't make social media posts where your face is public. And definitely, again, do not talk about it at work. Okay, there are way too many Black women being laid off for you to think that even if you are chummy with your coworkers, you never know what topic will piss somebody off for them to become your enemy and work against you to try to get you fired, get you demoted, whatever. keep your mouth shut. If someone tries to loop you in or they just honestly want to talk about it, just be like, hey, um, it's an unfortunate situation, but I don't know much about it, and just leave it at that. Always try to find a way to quickly end the conversation so they know, like, okay, this is not the person I can talk about this with. And yeah, if you really must talk about these topics, create a ghost account that cannot be traced back to you online and just talk as much shit as you want. Create a faceless YouTube channel and rant about it as much as you want. There are many forums online that you can talk about, but you need to be very strategic in how you do things so that it does not come back to bite you in the behind. I have to say, I do feel isolated from my fellow Black people sometimes. I was raised to be polite, kind, but firm by Ghanaian immigrant parents. You see, that's the thing, Melody, with a lot of immigrant parents. I also come from immigrant parents. They're from Jamaica. Um, Especially as it pertains to the Black community, because of a lot of our parents and grandparents actually did face racism, segregation, whatever. They kind of operate with this trauma response where they still think that we're in the 1960s or whatever. Um, and so it's always like this Black community, Black people first. And anytime you try to critique the faults of your fellow Black person, you're always met with like pushback and backlash and saying, like, Black people always say, not every Jamaican's like that, not every Black person is like that. And they kind of just dismiss the real actual issues that you can see, which is why I just don't talk about things with my parents or just people in the community. I just keep things very light. I talk about only positive things. And when they try to loop me in these like political commentaries, if we do not align with that visioning, I just simply just don't even engage. And then they go find somebody else to talk about that with. Because one thing I'm not going to do is burn myself out or die on the hill of trying to convince them to see the fault. It's just simply not going to happen. If somebody wants to change or elevate their thinking on a topic, they will do so on their own. How do you separate yourself from the collective? I feel everyone will always see me as connected to the collective. Um, this is gonna sound anti-Black, but whatever. Limit the amount of slang that you use, the amount of ebonics. Don't leave your house wearing a bonnet. Don't be ghetto. Don't look like the sexy reds. That doesn't mean that also like you need to be ashamed of your Blackness either, because being a Black woman, honestly, in my opinion, is when you show up, there's nothing better than a beautiful, elegant Black woman that honestly will make people stop in their tracks and stare at you in public. So cultivate your beauty, your look, your aesthetic, carry yourself in a way where you do not look like the average typical Black woman right now. And what I like to do, what I've been doing recently, honestly, is looking at the women from the 90s and the early 2000s, specifically like models like Iman, Naomi Campbell from back in the day, or even in sitcoms like Joan Clayton from Girlfriends. The way that those women carried themselves and dressed, like they knew how to carry themselves professionally and dress well in the workplace, but they also knew how to carry themselves in a way where they were still sexy and alluring and fun without looking like ghetto and crass. Like no one would mistake Joan Clayton for, or like Mia Long, whatever, for Sexy Red. You would look at the two and be like, those are not the same women. So I just look to be classy. People may call you an Oreo or say that you're trying to act white. Just pay that no mind, honestly, because again, those early 2000s, 90s sitcoms demonstrated that it is possible for Black women to be, for there to be a positive image of Black women, and that we're not all loud and ratchet and crass and ghetto. And the more that Black women continue to show up like that, which is one of the reasons why I like Lori Harvey, despite what people may say about her, she knows how to show up in a way where she is alluring and she looks good, but like she's not ghetto. No one will ever mistake her for Natalie Nunn or Jocelyn Hernandez because those women carry themselves well. Like, you very rarely hear Lori Harvey speak unless like she's talking to make money. Whereas like Jocelyn Hernandez, Natalie Nunn, they're all over the place, just yap, yap, yapping away. And to the point that there's no substance behind what they have to say. Some of the girls that I like to follow pageant girls as well. In pageantry, there's this expectation that you have to carry yourself with class. And while everyone's not going to relate to the pageant experience, it's not so much about wanting to be a pageant girly. It's more so about just like the class, the poise, the elegance that you can glean from that and apply that to your everyday life. Jody K. Taylor on TikTok and Instagram, she's someone that I follow a lot, very closely. Her type of content where not only does she speak about succeeding in your career, but she also offers tips and advice on how to look good, how to have good posture. She honestly is a prime example of like a beautiful, classy, sexy Black woman who is not only doing well in her career, but like she's living the life socially. She's always out and about, but like it's not the typical ghetto Black experience. So if you're looking for that motivation as well, again, let me type it in the chat here. Her Instagram handle, I think it's also the same on TikTok. Jody, sorry about the feedback with my mic. Jody K. She drops like a plethora of knowledge, and there are so many other women like her that come to mind. And you don't only need to follow like Black women, but it's easier to follow Black women because they look like you. So it's like, okay, she has a similar hair texture to me, she has a similar physique, I can easily adopt that. But there are also a lot of non-Black women that you can glean inspiration from as well. And honestly, with whatever image or messaging you align with, just follow that. Clark Peoples is another one. These girls know how to have fun. They know how to, they're succeeding in their careers, and they are not loud and ghetto and degenerate. Yeah, I haven't watched any of Richard's content, Autumn, but I did see that stat where there is a growing number of Black women leaving corporate, and not just because they're getting laid off, but a lot of Black women are being burnt out. And so they're leaving their high paying job because the easiest way to try to cut back on burnout, we automatically think it's, oh, I'm burnt out because of work, when in fact it's a lot of Black women who leave corporate end up continuing to be burnt out and stressed, and they don't realize it because a lot of Black people or Black women are not privy to the fact that their living and their family situations can also contribute to that burnout and stress. And so they continue to experience, maybe not as a great deal because you don't have the demand of work anymore, but they give up their well-paying jobs to start businesses, whatever. And if that's fulfilling for you, great. But you don't need to give up your good paying job to escape burnout, if that's what you're experiencing. I honestly recommend taking a holistic approach and looking at your life and being honest with yourself. Because a lot of Black women will not be honest by the fact that their boyfriends are stressing them out, their kids are stressing them out, having to pay the Black tax as a recent graduate is stressing you out. If you are in high school, for example, there is absolutely no need for you to be paying bills. That's just ridiculous. And that's one of the reasons why other races of people succeed and surpass Black folks, because they simply don't have the same expectations that, quite frankly, Black girls have to experience. and having to play the secondary or tertiary parent in the home, taking care of younger siblings, helping their parents to pay bills and things like that. Um, it's just mind blowing. A lot of kids, like, not only are their parents paying their way through college, but they allow them to stay home, live at home for however long they need to, um, in order to save up money. And then when it's time for them to move out, they have the money to purchase a property, but also their parents are oftentimes either giving them money for the down payment or just buying them their first property outright. And so, they have more money to save and thereby they have more wealth. And that's simply just not an experience that a lot of Black girls have. And so that's why I say, if you're in a situation, and first of all, if you're going to be living at home as an adult, I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, and if you are using like groceries and utilities, then yeah, like, be a responsible adult and contribute something. Like, you can't just be using the utilities, running up the light bill, whatever, and leaving it on your parents to take care of everything, or whoever you live with. Contribute something, but don't think that it's your responsibility to be paying all the bills, to be paying the light bill that you're not even really using as much at 16. Okay, there needs to be some level of practicality. But if your parents still allow you to, like, not pay market rent, but you're able to contribute some portion of your income, whatever, to living expenses, but you're still able to save, take advantage of that, and save up your money and buy a property, whatever, do what you need to do to succeed. But back to this corporate point here, a lot of Black women, your issue is not corporate, because you have access to great benefits that you can utilize. Mental health, a lot of employers now, especially during the pandemic, but it's extended, they offer free mental health services. So they'll either pay like a portion or cover 100% your therapy sessions. Take advantage of that. Go get a massage. Go to a naturopath and see where you may need additional support in your lifestyle, your diet, whatever. Don't give up these benefits that you can get from corporate without looking at other areas in your life that may be causing you stress. Because if you're honest, you may realize, like, oh, again, it may be these toxic friendships that I have, this family situation, these unrealistic expectations of having to stay in the church and be amongst hypocrites. Like, all those other things can contribute to burnout. It's not just a corporate setting. And yes, corporate can be tough. You have to deal with coworkers and whatever. But if you're strategic, you have boundaries, you're smart, you keep quiet, you're private, you will find that a lot of your issues will go away. But some of you guys have issues in corporate because you simply talk too much and you overshare and you think that your coworkers are your friends. You can get along wonderfully with your coworkers, and I encourage you that you do get along with your coworkers if you want to climb the ladder. But just because they are friendly with you doesn't mean that they are your friends. Some things you should, honest to God, just keep to yourself. And stop being the head of the household. If you are with a man who is not able to help himself and play his role of being the masculine provider, you're better off by yourself than having to carry his burden along with your own. Thoughts on black pill channels such as Pretty Little Reality? Honestly, I am not familiar with those channels. I don't even know what black pill is. Not sure what your stance is on the 2A, but until society and the justice system can protect women, I suggest that all women carry, especially if your state is open carry. I 100% support Second Amendment. If you have the privilege of living in a state, in a country, I know some of my listeners are Canadian. I have a lot of Canadian supporters, friends, and a lived experience, honestly, living in Canada as well for a short time. who unfortunately do not have access to Second Amendment, which sucks in my opinion. And a lot of countries, you can't even like have pepper spray, bear mace, nothing to protect yourself. So you're literally at the mercy of first responders showing up when you call. And a lot of times that takes some time for them to get to you. So if you live somewhere where you have the right to carry, you should carry. You should absolutely carry and protect yourself. It's better for you to defend yourself and then have to go to court to justify why you had to defend yourself than to be another Black victim. Honest to God. Don't be afraid. Yep. And it was that crazy lady was a Black woman who had the audacity to say that the next one should be Kirk's widow and his children. Like, regardless of what you think, that is just sick. Like, those kids have absolutely nothing to do with the father. And I know, honest to God, a lot of people are bothered by the wife and kids because it's a heterosexual white nuclear family. And for a lot of people, that represents white supremacy, especially if those white people are conservative. But in my opinion, this may tickle some people, but my encounter with people who are conservative, more right-leaning, has been easier than people who are left-leaning. Because I find that people who identify as left-leaning, and obviously, again, this does not apply to every single left-leaning person, but a lot of leftists tend to get very, very belligerent and angry if you do not believe in the same exact thing that they believe in. And it's evident in what happened to Charlie. And it's evident in other situations where there have been some trans pew-pewers that have taken out their frustrations on innocent children by pew-pewing schools, which is absolutely bogus to me. Whereas you don't see these offenses happening as much with right-leaning people. And yes, there are some right-leaning weirdo extremists who do things as well. Like, no one is debating that, but I find that a lot of violent, you're attacked more if you dare oppose left-leaning people, which is just ridiculous, because it's like, isn't the whole point of being left-leaning like the ability to think whatever you want, believe whatever you want, be who you want, be liberal and free in your thinking? But it's like, yeah, you can be free in your thinking so long as you believe in what I believe in. And that's not actual liberty now, is it? Like, it's just communism, if you will. Black women are by ourselves. White men and Asian men will always defend and never publicly disrespect their women. Oh yeah. Our men will rally up other races against us. Absolutely. A prime example of that is Tyler Perry and these ridiculous productions that he puts out where it's always the loud, angry Black woman, or it's the angry baby mama, or it's the successful Black woman dating the broke loser who has no ambition. Whereas Hollywood was literally created to pedestalize and center white women. And rightfully so. If you want to see your community and your group get ahead, it is your responsibility to only present yourself in a positive light, which is why I say, number one, detach from the Black collective and all forms of Black degeneracy, but also present yourself in the best possible way so that you increase your social standing and the way that you are perceived. And that's just something that Black people have not mastered yet. So If you look at Bollywood, like look at how those women are presented. I cannot think of not one negative image of South Asian women. And yes, I know that they primarily only center fairer skinned women, which is a problem in and of itself. But at the very least, they do not denigrate darker skinned women in Bollywood. They just simply don't show them, which is not cool. But there are so many productions of Black women being painted by Black men in such horrible light, on top of just the complete denigration of Black women's image on social media, which is crazy. Melody, I don't know what you mean by you don't see an Asian collective, but there is a very, very strong Asian people, East Asian in particular, they know how to mobilize. They go Asian first, they keep their money within the Asian community, um, and they create life in a way where it centers and makes their people's life easier. If you look at Japan, for example, I love Japanese culture. Japan has set up a way where Japanese women do not need to go to the West for anything. All of their hair products are curated in a way where it tends to their needs. Their skincare products are made specifically for Japanese women. Even their feminine hygiene products, if you've ever used their products, they're much more practical to a woman's body, as opposed to like compared to like Western products where you're more likely to experience leaking. Um, all of these things have been curated in a way to make sure that Asian women, Japanese women are comfortable. And I know that Korean women, for example, not the same community, but Korean women spearheaded the 4B movement. They get all this provision and whatnot. And the moment that their men step out of line and do not take care of them, do not cater to them, they say, okay, we're withholding all access to us until you learn how to act right. And I think that more Black women need to do that. And with the 4B movement, you will start to see those men who continue to harass and denigrate their women, they will just fall off the face of the earth because no one will mate with them. And so their legacy and their lineage will die off. And those men who want to survive will either continue to be the supportive allies that women need in order to make a relationship work, or they will learn how to adapt to the needs of their women, and they are the ones who will have their legacies carried on. And more Black women need to do that, in my opinion. I'm so glad AH and the rest of you guys who agree are able to see this and agree with me and see that opposing stereotypes is the only way and it's not anti-Black. And it's really just telling how when people say that it's anti-Black, it's just like you're just pretty much saying that it's an innate characteristic of Blackness to be a buffoon, which is not true. And it's sad for you. Sad for you people who like to align with that imaging. Elizabeth Taylor is such a classy woman. Same with Audrey Hepburn. Like I remember one time I was visiting friends in upstate New York, and I was in a grocery store. I was in Wegmans, and this one woman came up to me and was like, "You honestly remind me of Audrey Hepburn." And it was a white woman who said that to me. She's like, "You're just so classy." I was wearing like this like cream colored wool coat with these like knee-high heeled booties. And I was just so flattered and honored because Audrey Hepburn, if you've seen her in Breakfast at Tiffany's, like she's just such an elegant, classy woman. I was like, oh my God, thank you for that compliment. Like that made my day, honestly. And yeah, like it just goes to show that Audrey Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, these women are not Black, obviously, but you can still glean inspiration from them At the time, I did not know that I had gleaned inspiration from Audrey Hepburn, but someone was able to see that and make that comparison. And no one will ever, ever, ever confuse me with a bonnet wearing hood rat because we simply just don't look the same. Hey, Strategic Feminine. I know that you commented this like some time ago, but thank you for popping in and catching the live. Yes, I love to watch ballerinas. They are so elegant. I also like to go to the ballet. Every Christmas, I try to catch the Nutcracker. I've seen the Nutcracker a million and one times, but I just love to see the production of ballerinas coming together. And you see a large number of Black ballerinas. You even see a lot of unambiguous Black ballerinas playing some really major roles. I've seen a couple Black prima ballerinas as well. So just watching the way that they carry themselves. If you follow some of them on social media, you get to see a day in the life of their routine and how they maintain their physiques and style and whatever. You can also use that as inspiration. I left a position from the stress. Best decision I made this summer. Hung out with foreign students all summer at a part time. I felt it was a luxury to only work part time. Honestly, yeah, that's valid too. Like, there are some jobs that are super stressful, and like you're honestly getting nothing out of the situation. And if you're getting nothing out of that work arrangement, then yeah, leave. Because God forbid anything were to happen to you, these corporations are not going to think twice about posting your job the next day. Okay, so be strategic. And a part of being strategic is also identifying when it's time to leave. But when you are in a position, try to set yourself up in a way where you're learning as many skills as possible, getting as many certifications as you can. And if you can get your employer to pay for that, then that's even better. And then when it's time to go, it's time to go. You won't be as salty about the situation because it's like, well, at least I got this shiny new certification. At least I got these skills that I can now apply to this more higher paying job with another company, which is what I did. At the beginning of this live, when I said that I got a promotion, I was promoted with another company. I was with another job for like 7 years, and that employer was playing around, not only with me, but they were pretty much acting in a way where they wanted people to jump through hoops to demonstrate their worth and their value after we've demonstrated that, over some people decades. And I was like, I'm not playing this stupid game. Like, I'm leaving. So, a couple of years ago, they paid for a certification for me to get this promotion. And now another employer is paying me more. And these employers don't care. Like, they'll say, yeah, we need to find ways to retain top talent, womp, womp, womp. But then, like, do absolutely nothing. They do so many employee surveys. And when they get the responses and the feedback, they either just do nothing with it or they passive aggressively punish you if you offer any critique. So I always say don't be loyal to any corporation if they are not serving and benefiting you. So shout out to you, Strategic Feminine, for doing that. Sometimes, yeah, you do need to just step back and work part-time if you can travel somewhere. And I like to hang out with people from different cultures. So hanging out with foreign students, that's a great idea because they expose you to just fresh perspectives and different ways of life that you can apply to your life and make things better, honestly. I honestly think that's ridiculous. If you cannot coexist with people who have different opinions and viewpoints than you, then you're just a weirdo. Like, you're just immature and you need to find a way to just be mature. Um, Unless those family members are like on either side, if you're on the right or on the left, if you cannot find a way to, especially your family, you claim to love your family and you should want to prioritize and value that relationship. If you are going to allow your political opinion, which I find to be an American phenomenon more so than other cultures. If you cannot coexist and nurture your relationship with your loved ones because they have a different political view, then that says more about you than anything else. Um, so yeah, I'm always baffled by people, whether right or left, who ruin relationships because of political views. That's just dumb to me. Like these, regardless of whatever party you're a part of, they do not care about you. They just want your votes. And sometimes they will honor you for voting for them by doing what they say and putting in laws that will benefit you. But sometimes, for the most part, they are going to do what works best for them and their closest friends and allies and business partners. Whether it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they will all be self-serving to make sure that they and their families, when they leave office, are okay. Okay? Both of these parties are two sides of the same coin. So that's why I tell Black women, do not get emotionally wrapped up and involved in politics, because it's futile. Like whoever's going to win is going to win, whether you like it or not. So rather than getting upset, just be strategic and try to find ways to find policies, incentives, tax breaks, whatever that will benefit you regardless of who's in office. And that's that. I want to talk about your Sydney's ad makes you mad video. I believe in inclusion as long as it's done right. Being fat doesn't make you ugly, but it does make you less attractive. Yeah, that was basically the whole premise of the video. But beyond that, I want to get, and I know that people say like, oh, we need to include like other bodies to be more reflective of society at large. But if you notice, when it comes to these ads, like in the past 5 years or so, when it came to representing Black women, they were often represented by fuller figured women, plus size women, whereas white women and other races of women were represented by more fit, physically attractive women. Even though white women, Asian, Black, there's a growing number of all American women who are overweight. I think the average American woman, regardless of race, I think she wears like a size 12 or 14, correct me if I'm wrong. So even though, yes, a plus size, full figured Black woman is an accurate depiction of what the average Black woman looks like, why is it that Black women get that representation as like, this is what you look like, this is what you should strive for, but white women don't get that same, or Asian women don't get that same type of representation, when the average white woman does not look like Sydney Sweeney or other women who are built like her? It's because Asian women, white women, whatever, they are kind of given these aspirations, and more so they're targeting younger women, if we're being honest. They're giving these aspirations of quote unquote acceptable beauty standards that they should strive for, kind of saying like, if you look like this, you will have a better quality of life, you'll have access to more opportunities, which is true. But then depicting the full-figured overweight Black woman is kind of like, well, this is your reality, kind of stick with that. You can't have access to these aspirations and better quality of life and resources that these other races of women can have, when that wasn't the case back in the early 2000s and the 90s. Like depicting the bald-headed, like no disrespect, but like the bald-headed overweight Black woman was not a thing in the early 2000s. You had more physically fit women for you to aspire to look like, and to gain inspiration from. But because, again, a lot of Black women end up biting the hand that feeds them and being their own undoing, they were the ones who advocated and said, no, like we want more representation. And so honestly, I feel like these companies gave you what you wanted, but also were trolling and saying, okay, well, we're going to give you the most unattractive Black woman to represent you. And that's what exists right now. And so that's why in that video and another video, I said campaigns like the Ralph Lauren Oak Bluffs campaign is really important, because it's the first time in a long time where Black women were represented in a positive light that did not show us as the stereotypical Black woman. Thoughts on Exoticals United? That's my girl. When I first started off in the YouTube space, Exoticals United was one of my big supporters and still is today. I obviously haven't spoken to her in a while because I haven't been on YouTube, but she used to always share my share my videos. More recently, she would always comment and support. So shout out to Exoticals United. She definitely helped me to start off my brand, and I have nothing negative to say about her. We're a part of the Exotical space, the Exotical family. I know that a lot of people, especially I guess Black women, ambiguous Black women too, may have an issue with what she says. But I feel like people who have an issue with Exoticals United only heard a small little soundbite and are not familiar with her overall message. If you go in and watch her videos, whether it's her current videos or her earlier videos, you will see where she speaks positively of Black women, darker skinned women. She herself, she's mixed race, but she also identifies as a Black woman because she is. I know a lot of people think it's weird for mixed race women to identify as Black, but they have the right to identify however they want. But for ambiguous and unambiguous Black women, she offered a lot of advice and would also include them. And if you listen to her, she would even admit this, like there were a lot of, I guess, ambiguous mixed race women who gave her a lot of flack because she would also advocate for darker skinned exoticals like myself. So I have absolutely nothing to say about Exoticals United. Shout out to her. Thoughts on Shelly and Olandria? I made a video on Olandria. You can go and check that out, Dorothy. Shelly, a lot of what I have to say about Olandria applies to Shelly as well. What happened to my comments? Oh, a lot of what I said about Olandria applies to Shelly as well. I think that those two women are positive representatives of Black women. They're not ghetto, they're not crass. Especially Olandria, she's moving very strategically in the partner that she chose. A lot of people are saying that Olandria and Nick's relationship is fake. And even if it is, like, so what? Honestly, a lot of those gaming shows are not even real. People are going on there to get a come up. And I think that Olandria is being smart and strategic in, first of all, choosing Nick. But now it's kind of opened her up in the way that she presents herself. Now she's walking in New York Fashion Week. She got a brand deal with Nick, with Nick's Cosmetics. Nick and his family are constantly, she said, putting her on to deals where Nick will get a deal and they'll say, oh, bring in Olandria as well. So I think that a lot of Black women need to move like Shelly and Olandria specifically so that you can win. And that means only dealing with men who can offer you something, not men who are going to sit on loser podcasts and gossip like a little girl about somebody else's relationship instead of focusing on their own. I want skinny, desirable, competitive Black women representing me. Sorry, not sorry. Exactly. As a skinny, desirable Black woman myself, like, why would I want a socially undesirable person to represent me? Like, and I'm not saying that to be crass or to make it sound as if that person has no value as a human being, but like, other races of women are not fed this narrative as their representation, so why should we? But honestly, again, it's Black women's own undoing where we've said, like, oh, this is our representation, this is what we want. Because if you are slim, if you are fit and slender in the Black community, you are outcasted because the Black community glorifies being big. And the only reason why, in my opinion, the Black community glorifies being big is because they can't see themselves outside of being big. But the moment that they lose weight, if they have the opportunity to lose weight, they never go back. Look at Lizzo. She lost a gang of weight and she's still trying to lose weight. She doesn't want to ever go back to being big. If you listen to her interviews, she says like the challenges that she experienced in the industry as a big woman. The same with Meghan Trainor. She's a white woman, but she realized very quickly that if she wants to increase her standing, her social standing, she better lose that weight. Jennifer Hudson did that decades ago when she was realizing that she was plateauing and only the thrill, I think it was American Idol that she was discovered, the thrill that was wearing off. If she wanted to get more deals and not just be typecasted as the big Black woman, she had to lose that weight, and she did. And good for her. Thoughts on the bronze sculpture of a Black woman in Times Square, New York? I made a video on this. If you go back, you can see my full thoughts. But in a nutshell, I think that's honestly an attempt by a Black man to troll. That statue was made by a Black man. And it's a troll, in my opinion. It's people are like, oh, well, we don't know if she's Black. Yes, she is. Like, the man brought up an African spiritual group to sing and unveil the statue, and we can tell by the body shape, the structure, the hair, that it's a Black woman. And he is presenting to the world, this is another example of Black men denigrating Black women's image. He's presenting to the world like, oh, this is what you look like, Black women, haha. When he could have depicted you as a doctor, if you wanted positive Black female representation, he could have chosen a statue of a Black doctor, Black female doctor, ballerina, model. He could have done like a tribute to like the old Black Hollywood actresses like Dorothy Dandridge if he wanted to, or prominent Black politicians like Condoleezza Rice, but he didn't. He chose an attitude Black, a woman that many people were able to pinpoint and say, oh yeah, that's a Black woman. Would love a video about how we can continue to move strategically to show the distinction between Black women who are on code. Yep, that is coming up, MK. Stay tuned. You've gotten 4 commercials during this live. This is, oh, Yamina, I'm sorry that there are so many interruptions. Unfortunately, I don't control the amount of commercials. I think because like this live is an hour and a half, YouTube kind of just puts in their own reels. I haven't set up anything where I'm like, okay, I want X amount of commercials. I just, once I'm monetized, YouTube kind of takes the liberty to see how many commercials they want to put in. I can look into it, but honestly, I don't think there's anything I can do to control that. Sorry about the interruptions. Sometimes it's laziness too. It's easier to be fat than in shape, so they want fat to be, yep, it really is. It's easier to just sit around and not work out than to go for a walk, get on your stepper for 30 minutes, go to the gym. You honestly don't need to go to the gym to lose weight. You can buy equipment off of Amazon, Walmart, whatever, get some kettlebells and some dumbbells and eat in a calorie deficit and move your body. It's really not difficult, but it's the mental aspect that makes it difficult for a lot of women, unfortunately. Yeah, not everyone Melody looks like a high fashion model, and that's totally fine. Some people don't even look like commercial models either, and that's fine. Like, it is okay to look like an average, plain Jane, everyday woman, but the goal should be that you should try to look like the best version of yourself, or at the very least, the healthiest version. Not everybody aspires to be the beautiful, picturesque model-esque woman, and that's totally fine. But you should at least want to be healthy. Number one, so that you improve your quality of life, like quite literally. But number two, so that you can increase your social standing. Men and women who are in shape and who look good have access to more resources and opportunities in life than those who don't, regardless of race. Honestly, Autumn, I'm so glad you raised this point about Married to Medicine. Those women, especially Dr. Heavenly, I call her Dr. Devil because there's nothing heavenly about that woman. Like, she is so nasty and unprofessional. It's just baffling to me. And it goes to the whole, like, what do you call it, reality show culture where it's like Black women still don't want to detach from that ghetto stereotype. Again, like, I recommend that you just be professional at the very least and do not behave like Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Jackie and all of them. Dr. Jackie's not as bad. Dr. Simone, but I can't imagine them behaving the way that they do on TV in their private practice. But the fact that they're public figures and people can see their behavior and they're not really mindful of that, is really telling. But there's no consequence to their behavior because they're more popular. People want to see them because the Black community, they kind of pedestalize and glorify that behavior, and they've benefited as a result. That's why they're on the show season after season. But for everyday women like you and I, who are not celebrities and not entertainers like these women, you cannot afford to act the fool like that in private practice. So please do not think that you're like one of them and behave like that. Yeah, there's a lot of Ozempic, but unfortunately, Ozempic has a lot of long-term side effects that people don't want to talk about, and it makes you look deflated and sickly. Like, if you look at Serena, she does not look healthy, and I hope to God that she doesn't have anything else going on, but she did admit to taking either Ozempic or something like that, and yeah, she looks very tired. Melody, I think this is a good comment that you raised about the Black ballerinas. A lot of Black women are naturally like the slim thick aesthetic, or like naturally muscular, like Serena Williams, as well. Even though she lost weight, she still has that muscular physique, and so they're not as like slender as white ballerinas. That is a true point, um, which has its pros and cons, especially in that industry. But in everyday life, where yes, slim bodies are desired, but if you have like a physique to you, you got some TNA, that will also kind of set you apart from the average woman, because a lot of women are still paying for BBLs and boob jobs. And if you have that naturally, um, you will definitely be more desirable in society. So hold on to that if you have that. Okay, I'm gonna park it right here, ladies. It's been really fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I understand, but losing weight and being skinny is still a cheat code for women. Absolutely, Dorothy. I 100% agree with you. It really is a cheat code. TNA, Melody, just tits and ass. If you got boobs and a butt, like, that will set you apart. All right. Thank you, ladies, for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next video. I will be posting something, if not this week, next week. Again, I cannot commit to more than one video a week, but I will be more active now that things have settled down. Again, drop your video recommendations and I will be going through the comments again. If I missed your comment, apologies, I'm not ignoring you. It's just the chat is moving really quickly. But thanks again so much for supporting. Have a great week, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Good night.